Hello, everyone. Welcome to IFMSA Submissions webinar. We're very excited to speak to you today about the. Can you mute, guys? Okay. We're very excited to speak to you today about the IFMSA submissions that we will be having for March meeting 2019. Only a few days separate us from March meeting, and there's a lot of submissions as you saw, and as it has been already shared with you. So the aim of this webinar is to go with you over the submissions and to give you a bit of an idea about how to prepare and which are the most important documents that you need to read. Today in the webinar, we have with us IFMSA Executive Board. We have Jose, IFMSA VPPRC.
Hello, everyone.
We have Nibosha, IFMSA VPA.
Hi, everyone.
We have Michael, IFMSA VPE.
Hi, everyone.
And we have Fabrizio, IFMSA VPM.
Hello,
and we
everyone.
Have, and we have Georg, IFMSA VPCB.
Hi, everyone.
And we have Ahmed, IFMSA VPF.
Hello, everyone.
And together today, we will take you through a short journey over all the submissions that we have to explain to you what are these submissions, how you prepare for them, and what are the procedures related to them in the March meeting. This webinar is dedicated to IFMSA NMO presidents who are attending the March meeting, and also you can feel free to share it with the delegation if you distributed the documents on them, and if they are going to prepare for some of the discussions that will take place in the president's session and in the plenary. So we will not be able to discuss every single submission together with you, but we will give you a short idea about what is the most important thing related to this submission and the procedure related to it in the GA. And then as an overview, Georg, can you move the slide? Yes, the second one. So the next one. So as an overview of the content of our webinar today, to start with, we will discuss the president's session and the plenary procedures related to the discussions in the president's session. And then we will have an overview about the plenary team and the CCC. Then we will discuss tracking documents which are important for you to follow up on and to have and to keep with you all through the GA. The bylaw change proposals as well that we are having, candidatures overview for all the candidatures we are having, and policy documents, the process related to it and the discussions and the amendments. And then we have the MOUs and the sponsorships, the task force reports, and finally other reports, which are subco official reports and financial reports. We're going to start with the president's session and the plenary. And before we start with that, as you know, we have in the NMOs folder, we have another folder, which is March meeting 19. And inside it, you can find the submissions folder. And in the submissions folder, you can find all the documents that we will be speaking about in this webinar. So if you got lost at any point, you can go back to the folder and everything you will find there, and also in the submissions tracking sheet, which we will explain about later. Okay. So we're going to start with the president's session. Is Fabrizio here, or was he disconnected? Okay.
Disconnected.
Yeah, so starting with the president's session. So as you know, we have president's session during the GA, which is in parallel to the standing committee sessions and NMO management session. And in the president's session, we will be discussing the most important things that are going to be discussed in the plenary. The President's Survival Kit was shared with you before, and in the President's Survival Kit, it outlines how the agenda of the session is divided. The agenda was built in a way that the discussions that are going to take place in the plenary are being discussed first in the president's session in order to save time. We have Fabrizio back with us now. So Fabrizio, would you like to speak about the president's session since you will be coordinating it?
Yeah, so for the president sessions, it's going to be mainly the space where the NMO presidents and representing the members of the NMOs will discuss all the things that are related to the plenaries and the procedures in the plenaries as well. But at the same time, we will have discussions about many different processes that are going on in the federation right numbers. One, this we have global priorities and progress in all the areas that we work. At the same time, for these president sessions, we will also have open space for discussions, which will give the NMO presidents the possibility to discuss things that they consider relevant to be discussed with all the NMO presidents, and this will also improve or enhance the characteristic of networking platform that IFMSA has as youth platform for discussions between the medical students that we represent. After that, during after the president sessions, we will have time for the NMO hour, where it's basically a time for you to share, or for the NMO presidents and representatives to share with the delegation that during that time are going to be present in the standing committee sessions or NMO manner. What were the discussions during the president sessions and how to move forward for the plenary. So in the plenary, I won't go deeply into that because there's going to be a further explanation. The moment where your NMO representatives will express the opinion of the medical students that you're represented in your countries. Okay. Based on discussions and also the background, the situations that you have the medical has. President sessions, of course, is the place to raise concerns, and not just concerns, but also suggestions in order to let us know how.
Okay. Apparently the connection is not really good with Fabrizio. But as an overview, the main important things that you need to know, because we have received one of the comments that the connection was not very clear and not everything was heard well. But what Fabrizio was trying to inform you is that during the president session, the most important discussions will take place in the president session, and in the plenary, we will try to minimize the discussions as much as possible. That's why the president session agenda is built in a way that we have all the discussions first there, and then we go to the plenary for voting and so on. This does not take away your right to speak in the plenary, but we will try to minimize all the discussions and to have it in the president session in order to save time and not to keep our members a lot in the plenary. Also Fabrizio spoke about the NMO hour, which we will have each day as well, and we will try to have it's structured in the agenda in a way that it's before the plenary itself. So you can discuss with your delegations the discussions that already took place in the president session and to have their opinions on it, so you can have a vote with it, within the delegation, and to have the decision of your NMO on the matter. The plenary will follow strict procedures and discussions will be limited. You need to keep in mind that there are certain motions that you need to submit for the plenary. So if you submitted a bylaw change proposal, for example, the motion must be submitted 1 day in advance, midnight, before the day that it's going to be discussed. Procedural motions can be submitted on spot, and the majorities for the motions are explained well in the bylaws. During the president session, the plenary team will make sure that they will go with you over the procedures and explain everything, so you can feel informed and know how the process will go during the plenary. In addition, there will be speaking time, speaking list during the plenary if you would like to do statements or if you would like to speak anything, and usually it's limited to 3 minutes, depending on the time and how we go with the flow, and the plenary chair is going to explain more related to this during the president session on the first day. So now we move to the next part, which is the plenary team and the CCC with Nibosha.
Hey everyone again. So the plenary team is composed of chairperson and vice chairperson who may then appoint secretary and secretary assistants. Then we also have constitutional credential committee and returning officers. The chair and vice chairperson are the ones in charge of conducting the plenary, and they are the ones basically coordinating everything, ensuring the whole procedure is going according to our regulations and bylaws. Constitutional Credential Committee is there to assist them, and the secretary is there to make sure that everything we say and all our actions during the plenary are written down in the minutes. And then we also have returning officers who are there to assist us with the voting device, the microphones, and ensuring that everything goes much faster than if we had someone from the rest of the plenary team going around and making sure that you're able to speak during the plenary. It's important that you keep track of everything that the plenary team is sharing on the NMO server. There were already a few emails sent by the chairperson who introduced all the rules, and it's important that you're also there on the first day of the GA when we had the plenary simulation, because the chairperson is going to speak about the whole procedures there, and every chairperson is a little bit different, and we leave a little bit of freedom for the chairperson to conduct the plenaries in a style that's more reflective for them. So even though maybe you're experienced, you should still attend that plenary simulation to see the style of plenaries that's going to be there. And also another reason that you really should attend the plenary simulation is because we're planning to have a new system for voting, a new electronic system through our internet, basically. So we're not going to use the voting devices, although we're going to keep them and ensure that even if the new process doesn't work out, we're going to have something to some sort of a backup. But everything will be explained there on the spot, so don't worry. It's very simple, and it's according to all the standards that we are used to with the current voting devices. Also, if you have any questions for the plenary team for the CCC, they're going to be present in the president sessions, so you're going to always be able to ask them everything. At the end of every day, we have a time for the plenary team to introduce all the procedures. So again, it's important to stay there until the end of the president sessions to hear what's going to happen in the plenary.
Thank you, Nibosha. So now the most important question is how you can follow up on all of these documents and submissions without feeling lost with this huge amount of documents that you need to review before the GA. And in order to make the process a bit easier, we have two important tracking documents that you really need to keep in mind and to put on your laptops and to bring with you to a March meeting. Which is the voting rights and depth tracking document and the submissions tracking document. These two documents were shared before, and we are going to send them on the thread again of the webinar, so to remind you about them. But in order to explain them more, Georg, can you go to the next slide? So for example, here we have the submissions tracking document, and in this document we have all the submissions that are going to be discussed in the GA summarized in one document. So you can have an overview. It's easier if you show it to your delegates so they can understand what kind of discussions that will take place in the General Assembly. As you can see, we have multiple tabs. We have the bylaws, and in the bylaws we explain with full details what are the changes that are happening and so on. Then we have the policies that are being submitted and links to the working documents. We have the membership applications. We have the reports. All the reports that are going to be discussed in the GA are summarized there, who submitted them and the link to their to the specific report. And finally, the candidatures. All the types of candidatures that we have in the GA are outlined there with the person who submitted them. So this is the first document, which is the submissions tracking document. And the second document we have is the NMO voting rights and membership. And as you can see here, this document is being updated regularly, so we can make sure that everyone knows if they will be having a voting right or not. Of course, this will be decided by the CCC, but this is based on our knowledge as EB for the submission of the NMO report, for updating ifmsa.org, and for having any debts related to ifmsa. So if you are worried, if you are having issues, you need to solve it, or you need to check anything to keep your voting right, it's very important to check this document and to go to it before coming to the GA, and to approach the relevant officials if you feel that you have difficulties in updating ifmsa.org. You can reach out to the VPPRC Jose. If you are having any debts that you need to pay, you need to reach for the Vice President for Finances, Ahmed. And if you well, the deadline for submitting the NMO report has passed, so there's no way to fix that, unfortunately. So this document can help you understand whether you have any possibilities of losing your voting right or you will be keeping it. But of course, the final decision will be for the CCC during the GA. And now we move to the next part, which is a very important part as well, which is the bylaw change proposals.
All right, so for the bylaw change proposals, I worked with chairperson and vice chairperson. Those are Dominic and Ahmed. I worked with them in order to help you out with the bylaw change proposals. As you can see on this slide, this is basically a copy of one of the documents that we sent, which is the combined bylaw change proposals document. In the beginning, we explained how we grouped all of bylaw change proposals and how we divided them. As you can see, we divided them into different clusters that speak about specific topics, and then we wrote who are the proposers for these bylaw change proposals. And you can see in the first column which proposers they are. We have task force management, observers procedures, observers from suspended NMOs, global priorities, the standing committee directors, contact person, auto quota spots, VBPRC, VPE tasks, GDPR, SCORA. Can you change slide? Then we have associate membership related bylaw change proposal, then the RD reports, membership applications, commitment reports, GA procedures, programs, the last one. Clarifications. Under clarifications, we put basically everything that doesn't change what's the procedure. It just makes it a little bit more clear or adds a bit more explanation to it. And there are various, and they're coming from the TO and the NMOs. And there's a few more. Second. So the subco candidatures, gender neutral language, non-medical students as program coordinators, and representation barriers. As you can see, there is a lot of bylaw change proposals. There's actually 70, but bylaw change proposals may also include changes to multiple paragraphs. So there may be even more than 70. So it's important that you come prepared to the GA. And to help you with that, as I said, we created a document called Combined Bylaw Change Proposals. And in that document, you have all the bylaw change proposals in one. And or each one I renamed to write, can you return the slide? Yeah. So I wrote IFMSA bylaw change proposal and then the number. The number here is reflective of what's in the tracking sheet, so you're not confused. And if you don't want to use this document, you also have individual documents for each bylaw change proposal, and they're named according to a certain code, which is basically GS, then the GA, bylaw change proposals, and then the assigned number that's in the tracking sheet, who's the proposer, and the main paragraph that's being changed. This is also make sure that you have an easier time finding all the bylaw change proposals. And you can find all the documents I was talking about in the submissions folder in March meeting under February 1st deadline and bylaw change proposals. Can you go to next one? And then Batul was also talking about the tracking sheet. Maybe it's easier if you open it for yourself to follow here. But in the tracking sheet itself, you can also find the link to the combined bylaw change proposals file. And you can clearly see the number of the proposal, the proposer, the group that we're talking about, the paragraphs related there. And in 2 columns, you can see the original paragraph and the new paragraph that's being changed. It's important to realize that in the changes paragraph, everything that's red and strike through is what's being removed, and everything in blue, is what we're adding. That we did this so that the changes are more visible for you and you can understand all of them. Every word in the bylaws matters, so that's why it's important to pay attention to everything that's written there. And then there's also the explanation from the proposers. Finally, I would like to say that it's very important because of the number of proposals that you come prepared to the GA, that you already read all the bylaw change proposals and that you discuss them with your delegates, because you may not have enough time during the GA itself. You will see in the minutes of the past meetings that I've been trying to find some new way for discussions online, but unfortunately for this GA, it won't be possible to have that, but hopefully for the next one, we'll have a new innovative system where we can have a proper discussion online before we get to the GA, and then we can have final discussions at the GA and save some time for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Nibosha. And now we move to a very important part, which is the candidatures we will be having in March meeting and the process related to it with Ahmed.
Hi everyone. So for the March meeting, we'll be having several candidatures for the executive board and for the next March meeting host. First of all, for the March meeting 2020, we have two candidatures from Mamsik Montenegro and Metsar Rwanda. Then we have for the executive board positions for the executive board of 2019-2020. We have for the president Luke Hamlin from AMSA Australia and Nebosha Nikolic from IFMSA Serbia. For the vice president of activities, we have three candidates: Anthony Nimr from LIMSIC Lebanon, John Ibong from NIMSA Nigeria, Sania Saharabuda from MSAI India. Unfortunately, we don't have any candidates for the vice president of finance, vice president of members, and the vice president for capacity building. For the vice president of external affairs, we currently have two candidates: Tarek Azin from Associated Tunisia and Tristan Adams from AMSA USA. Finally, for the vice president for public relations and communications, we have one candidate, Saad Shahabi from IFMSA Morocco. For the position of IFMSA vice president for public relations and communication 2018-19, we will also receive any candidates. Next, for the IFMSA officials, for the liaison officer of sexual reproductive health, including HIV/AIDS, we have two candidates: Egli Yansoyanti from LIMSIC Lithuania and Laura Lalukat from IX Catalonia. For the RD Americas, we have Gabriela Cipriano from IFMSA Peru, and for the RDMR, we have Adonis Wazir from LIMSIC Lebanon. For IFMSA Subco 2017 and 2019 and 2018-2020, we didn't receive any candidates. So how it will go through during the GA? First of all, we'll be having the presentations of all candidatures for the executive board positions and for the meeting host and for the membership upgrade and change of status will be all happening on the second plenary on the 3rd of March. For the EB candidates, there will also be an EB debate, which will be happening on the third day, which is the 4th of March. Finally, for the membership upgrades and the change of status, we will also be having the membership application review, and that will be presented in the president's session. And we will be also having the RD's membership follow-up report, and that will be also be presented in the president's session. So for the voting procedure, as Nebosha said earlier, we'll be having a new system, which will be mainly through an online platform. So make sure that you have a device which can be connected to a wireless internet and to have it fully charged during all plenaries. Also, as requested by the plenary team through the email they sent on the NMO server, to make sure that the outcomes of the elections will be solely based on the candidates' merits and not their ability to travel to the GA. That all NMOs only approach candidates before the GA, and once the GA starts, or the questions should be channeled through the plenary team, and they will be collecting the questions and distributing the answers for all NMOs. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to approach us or the plenary team.
Okay. Thank you, Ahmed. And now we move to the next important part as well in the GA, which is a whole process that happens each GA, which is our policy documents. With Michael, the Vice President for External Affairs.
Thank you very much, Batul. So going to policy documents, the first general update is that we have received 11 policy document proposals for this March meeting. 7 of them are from the team of officials, and 4 of them are from our national member organizations. Those from the team of officials are on comprehensive sexual education, access to research and research education, non-communicable diseases, access to medicines, asylum seekers and refugees health, human trafficking and health, and vaccinations. So these 7 are from the team of officials. And then we have received the health policy document proposal on health emergencies from SFGH UK and MSI India, policy document proposal on HPV vaccines from LIMSIC Lebanon and SFGH UK, policy document proposal on trade and health from Metsar Rwanda and IFMSA Pakistan, And finally, the policy document proposal on integrity and transparency in medical education from ANEM France and AMSA USA. So despite the fact that these policy documents are proposed by both NMOs and team of officials, when we will be voting on them during the General Assembly, it actually doesn't matter. Only the procedure how these policy documents proposals are channeled to the General Assembly are a bit different. So talking a bit about the policy process for the March meeting, basically to update you about the whole process also in past, we have opened the input procedures for team of officials proposals on 15th of December 2018. So basically for more than six weeks, all the members of IFMSA, all the members of national member organizations had access to these policy drafts and were able to contribute with their suggestions, amendments, and even texts and paragraphs. This access was paused on 24th of January 2019. So the liaison officers and small working groups and policy commissions were able to finalize the first drafts for the 1st of February deadline. After that, we had the official procedure for amendments from NMOs from the 1st of February until 17th of February, where NMOs only through their NMO email accounts were able to raise official amendments, basically their comments on the proposed structure of the policy documents. After 17th of February, we had 2 days to finalize the completely final proposals by the policy commissions. And yesterday, per Annex 1 deadline on 19th of February, I have shared the final proposals from the team of officials with NMOs. So basically, in the yesterday's email, you can find the proposal, which is submitted to the GA for the plenary, and also with the tracking sheets for all the amendments which were raised by NMOs in the period from 1st of February till 19th of February. So you can freely track them and check them. The new addition to policy process for the March meeting is the Policy Reviewing Committee report, which was adopted by the General Assembly. The Bylaw change proposal was adopted during the last General Assembly. And the Policy Reviewing Committee for this GA consists of the Vice President for External Affairs and then members of AMSA Australia, IFMSA Egypt, and Medicine Sudan. The committee is working already right now, and they will be sharing their recommendations on the adoption of the proposed policies 1 day before the GA, again, per Annex 1 deadline. All the policies will be presented to the General Assembly also during day 1 per Constitution and Bylaws again. And we will have a policy documents discussion, which will be focused only on the implementation of these policies in NMOs. And this discussion will happen during the first working day of the General Assembly and will be split according to different policies. So policy commissions will organize these discussions. Finally, there is still a bylaws opportunity for NMOs to propose amendments to these procedures, which can be sent to the proposer in accordance with Annex 1. And these amendments made during the General Assembly or after the deadline in Annex 1 shall be submitted to the chair of the plenary at the latest 23:59 observed in the time zone of the relevant General Assembly on the day before the scheduled start of the session, where these policies should be voted on. However, as the team of officials shared since the beginning of the process, we are going to reject any amendments made during the General Assembly because of the very long timeline and transparent timeline of the procedure we had since December. So this is just an FYI note that all these amendments made during the General Assembly will have to be voted upon, and they will significantly prolong the procedure of the adoption. But there is an avenue for NMOs to do it also during the GA. So this is everything for the policy proposals. And in case you have any questions, feel free to contact me at vp@ifmsa.org.
Thank you, Michael. And just to remind you that we have a chance to, if you would like to ask anything related to the webinar, you can ask through the chat on YouTube. And we will be answering all the questions shortly after the webinar. We're very close to the end of it, so if you have any questions, please write them on the chat and we will come to all the questions by the end. And now we go back again to Michael and to discuss the MOUs that we have proposed for March meeting.
Thank you, Batu. So for the MOUs, this abbreviation stands for the Memorandum of Understanding, which are basically the official documents, how IFMSA officializes our collaboration with our external partners. So for this General Assembly, we have, I think it's 10 MOU proposals, yes. correct, and the majority of them is focused on the regional organizations and regional level, because at the beginning of this term we promised ourselves that we want to work a lot with regional directors on establishing more tighter collaborations with actors on the regional level. So from 10 proposed MOUs, actually 8 are connected to regional actors, and 2 of them, the Young Professionals Chronic Disease Network and Global Health Now, are the international MOUs. For these memoranda, all of them are written by the IFMS Executive Board and the relevant team of officials members in collaboration with these partners, and are reviewed by the IFMSA Supervising Council. And then during the General Assembly, the NMOs vote on the adoption of these MOUs. When it comes to the validity of these agreements, every single MOU has different validity, so you need to check it. And then in case you have any questions about the content of these MOUs, please approach the relevant team of official members. So for the regional MOUs, it's basically regional director and me as the vice president for external affairs. And then for the Young Professionals Chronic Disease Network is liaison officer for public health. For global health now, it's VPE again. So I think for the MOUs, this is everything. And once again, in case you have any questions, please feel free to raise them over the NMO server.
Thank you, Michael. And now we move also to another exciting part, which is the sponsorship proposals that we will be having in March meeting with Jose, the Vice President for Public Relations and Communication.
Hello, everyone, once again. So regarding sponsorships, we have submitted two. The first one is Dr. Walter. He's from an insurance company based on Germany. We decided to move forward with this based on the offers that they were giving us, which benefits all medical students that are going on exchange. So the idea is to provide them with a platform in our exchange database so that they can sign up for the insurance if they want. And they offer special prizes for us. And this is mainly for exchanges. The second one is Scholar RX. This one is to basically support our workshops and to provide us access to open access platforms, learning bricks, like in an online platform. So basically they provide us a grant, as I said before, and this is for mainly our pre-general assemblies or pre-regional meetings. So basically, these two sponsorships were submitted because they are the new ones. The old ones were submitted like as a commitment report. So yeah, that's all from sponsorship. We will have the chance to discuss them also during president sessions. So you can always ask throughout in any account, which is vpprc@fmsa.org. And I will be there as well in the president session to clear anything if you have any questions. And that's it. And then we will move on to the task force reports.
Jose, can you move a little bit closer to the mic so your voice can be a little bit louder? Yeah.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. All right. So next part is task force reports. We have 3 task forces up and running. The United Nations one, live streaming and online voting, and barriers to representativity. The first one was supervised by Michael, our vice president for basically, to sum up what they have done, they have met. Some of them started late because of the several calls that we held in our NMO server and all the servers that we had. In short, and my task force, which I'm part of, like a supervisor, the live streaming and online voting started working on the 22nd of December. Also, the barriers to representativity started in November. So some of the work that we planned has been delayed, but mostly they started working, defining the structure, defining the coordinator, defining what they wanted to focus on, and if the objectives defined in the August meeting last year were feasible, and if they wanted more concrete steps forward to be defined before they start working. So most of them started working. They've also came up with some questions for the NMO report, and some of them are waiting for these questions to are currently analyzing them. But mostly that's it. Yeah, you can always contact them by sending an email to their task force emails that you can find in the reports. But also they will be discussed in the president's session. So in the first day of the president's sessions. So any question that you might have, just send it over to them so that they can clear that before we get in the plenary. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose. And it's worth mentioning that we have two task forces. If you notice that they are not reported, it's because the task forces were not able to be functional during the past period. And the reason for that is we were not able to find the composition that was adopted in the previous General Assembly. They are the task forces on the involvement of non-medical students and the task forces on the membership status. The EB will be proposing changes to the structure so we can be able to open them after March meeting because all through the previous calls, which reached around 6 to 7 calls, we were not able to fulfill the structure and the requirements of the members of the task force. And according to our bylaws, the task force cannot be functioning unless all the structure has been fulfilled. So now we move to the last part of our webinar with Georg, and who will give you an overview of the rest of the reports. We have a lot of reports for the GA, and he will speak to you about the remaining reports that you also need to check for March meeting.
Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you for still being with us. At this point, I'm going now to the most exciting part, the other reports. First of all, we have official reports. These are the reports that display all the work that has been done by the individual officials. Based on the input that we have had also from the previous years and terms, we tried to align them a bit better regarding the structure and everything, so it's clear for you what the officials did and what was the scope of their work. Also, one thing that we would like to mention at this point is feel free to ask officials if you have any questions, as we know that different people have different ways sometimes of reporting or writing down all the different projects and progress that we had in the different aspects. We also understand that there might be questions. So whenever you have a question to any of the officials, feel free to just contact them also before the GA. As you know, during the GA, sometimes it's a bit full already. So it's always good to share your questions as soon as possible. After that, we have also the VPA report on grammatical and renumbering changes to the Constitution and bylaws. This is nothing that changed the content or anything in the bylaws. This is just an organizational thing that needs to be done, and Nebosha is going to share with you this report in the upcoming days. It's just a thing that we need to do after every time we change bylaws, and we need to check if everything is correct in there. Also very important, you find the preliminary report of the subco already in the submissions. Preliminary because some of the things might be updated and will be shared with you in the very final version. For the subco report, take your time also to go through, to have your questions ready if you have any. For this, you can also keep in mind that the subco is responsible for different things. So sometimes it's just giving input, or when there's a question on certain things for NMOs if they have a problem, or someone else, so they can give advice, but they also have sometimes investigations and so on. So as you can see in the report, that they have different types of their support for you to understand. Another important thing is the policy reviewing committee report, which is also, or will be shared very soon. No, I'm sorry, Michael already talked about it. So this is just one of the reports that is also going in along with all the policy efforts that we have. And also, of course, very important financial reports from GAs, IFMSA 1670, and the financial years. As we have an accounting company, MTH, this is also the report that is done with them together, so we can conclude those things, which is really important for us as IFMSA on a legal matter if we have any controlling going on, and so on. Also, just one little thing at the very end, even though it's not a report itself, but also the minutes after this webinar, you will receive the final documents for all the capacity building IOGs, the final document, which went through a long period of work and revision from everyone. So you can find then all those documents in the server. And what is important for the process, because when you remember back the process that we have for the global priorities, usually we adopt them first as a document before we are able to put them into the constitution and bylaws. This is the reason there is no bylaw change for this, but we will have in the very last agenda of the plenary, in the very last day we have in the any other business, we will also submit it for adoption as we did with the global priorities, but it will be explained in the email and you can ask anything for that. So this was the last thing for all the different reports. As you can see, and as we heard before, there are a lot of them. Try your best on the one hand to go through them, but also don't feel hindered to ask anything to any of the officials or to any of the EP members. We are here to help. We have been in your situation some time ago, so we know how overwhelming it can be, but we try to make it as easy as possible for you.
Thank you, Georg. And Taha, can you elaborate a little bit about the financial reports that are submitted for the GA, so NMOs can understand which reports we will be discussing this GA?
Okay, so for the financial reports for the General Assemblies, we have the report for March meeting 2018 submitted by IFMSA Egypt. For the IFMSA General Financial Reports, we have the one for 15-16 is already submitted. 16-17 have unfortunately the accounting firm wasn't able to finish it for the March meeting, so it's postponed to next August meeting. So for now, we just have the General Assembly March meeting 2018 and the financial report of 15-16. And these will be reviewed by the Financial Committee, and they will be giving the report for the NMOs with the recommendations to the NMOs.
Okay, thank you, Taha. And also, it's worth mentioning as well that in order to make the process easier for you, it's not a submission, it's not required as a submission, but also to update you about our progress on the strategy, we will be sending out on the server today a report outlining the progress on the strategy. We are supposed to actually report on it by the end of the term, but we decided to make a half-annual report so NMOs can understand what has been done so far. And it will make our discussion easier during the president session since we will have an agenda point about it. In addition, we will be reporting on IFMSA mandates as well by tomorrow. And the mandates, we will include the work that has been done so far on them and what procedures are needed for any further inclusions for the mandate. We have reached the end of our webinar. This is your chance to ask questions if you have any. And I guess we have 2 questions so far.
Yes.
Yeah, Nibosha?
I can also read.
Okay.
So, Students for Global Health UK ask, with the new voting system on laptops or smartphones, will it be possible to be discreet whilst voting as it is possible with the cards, or in the plenary room big enough that people are far apart? So, yeah, you can.
Okay, I can reply. So basically, you have 2 options. One is to vote on your laptop. The other is to vote on your smartphone. If you're voting on your smartphone, it's going to act the same way as the voting devices because you can just hide over what you're selecting. And the interface that you're going to be clicking on is basically similar to the voting devices itself, except it's on a touch screen. So it's very intuitive, and I don't think you're going to have any problems figuring out what to press and so on. The chairperson is going to explain all the options as they do right now. So don't worry about that. And if you're voting on your laptop, I also asked specifically that. There is an option that you vote on your keyboard. So you cover the numbers on your keyboard as you do with the voting device right now. You press the number you want, and then you have a pop-up notification saying, are you sure this is the vote you want to give? So basically everything is hidden and you have your privacy ensured. Also, we don't I think the platform doesn't track exactly how each user voted. It tracks what users voted, what users didn't vote. So there is nobody that's going to see, not even the chairperson and people handling the voting are going to see what you voted on. Only the summary of the results. And the second question, I think, was about the full member for vote for candidates. Yes, you need to be a full member, and you need to have ensure that you submitted all the documents required for the voting rights. It's if you go to the sheet that Batul mentioned in the beginning, the NMO's voting rights sheet, you can see there if you're going to have voting rights or not. But in the end, that's the decision of the CCC as well, who is going to review everything.
And thank you also for the other question regarding the IOGs for capacity building. The documents that will be shared today are basically the final documents of the IOGs, but there is still one more week to, if you have any clarification questions, if there's any wording that you would like to change or other of those things. It's important also to mention that from last time that they were shared with the NMOs, the main changes are basically the one that we clarified the SRT procedures, because with the CBIT and also with the standing committees, we realized that the regulations that we had on this were not really in line with the reality of organizing such an event. So this is the biggest change from last time, and also that we included a thorough explanation of the different online training possibilities that we want to create, because luckily with also the big help of the PR team, we were already able to work on an online training platform, which we are hoping to establish soon after the March meeting. So these are the main changes, but of course you can still ask questions. It will be clarified and explained in the email.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions, guys? Do you see any other questions?
No.
No. Okay. So you can still ask whatever questions you need. We understand that not everyone may be able to join the webinar live, but you can email us at any time if you have any other question. Email us at eb@ifmc.org, or if you know that it's related to a specific person's area, then email that person to their specific email. And tomorrow at the same time, we will be having the updates webinar, and the updates webinar is going to give you an overview of the work that has been done throughout the past period, and what progress we have in IFMC and in our federation, and specific working areas related to EB members, as well as some of them related to officials. So make sure to attend it. It will be very helpful for you to stay updated and to participate in the discussions happening in the GA. It will be carried out at the same time, 3 p.m. GMT tomorrow, and it's called the Updates webinar. And we hope to see you all there. So thank you all for the ones who attended, and feel free to reach us out whenever you need anything, or if you have any questions, and see you all in March meeting. So thank you, and thank you guys for the webinar.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you all. Bye.